Good evening. It is 11:12 p.m. in Matanuska Valley in Alaska. Today is the 4th of August, 2025. I made my first two podcasts, podcasts the other day. And they were about grief. Today, I got contacted by a close friend, and they were discussing about love, falling out of it and everything, ready to cut ties and move on. I said a prayer and everything, and I gave a little bit of advice. I didn't really get to get deep into the conversation because I had my own little thing going on here at home. But some of you know my story about me and my Andrew, which, by the way, Friday the 1st of August marked 24 days from the second re-meeting of each other. We had met initially 15 years before in 1986 or 85. And he had asked me to dance, and I was like, no, thank you. And he was like, why not? I was like, you're not my type. And went to walk off, and he pulled me back, and he's like, well, what's your type? And I looked him up and down, and I was like, not you. Anyway, and then fast forward 2001, here's this guy on this football, field picking up cones or putting cones down. I don't even know. All I know is I saw the most gorgeous calves on a black man I had ever seen before in my entire life. And oh my God, I love some calves, right? Anyway, and I heard this voice that said, you see that man right there? That's going to be your husband. And I said, that short, fat black man, he ain't even my type. Then the voice says, even more stern, that's going to be your husband. So, of course, I'm turning around trying to figure out who's talking to me, and there's no one there. Well, by the time I get to the sidelines, I'm greeted by this woman that introduces herself as a team mom as well as the wife of the coach. And so I was like, and of course I'm in my head, I'm like, Satan, get thee behind me. I'm a child of God. I belong to him. And the Lord knows my checklist said my husband could never have been married, and I prefer that he does not have children. Of course, I was selfish back then. I expected someone to take me and my children in to their lives, but I was too selfish to even consider that he may have a child that he wanted to bring into the marriage. But that's neither here nor there. We ended up having this wonderful ride in our lives, and like I said, Friday marked 24 years from the day I saw him on that football field. And Friday also marked 22 years from the date we got married. My husband passed in 2021, so I believe at that point we were at 17 and a half years of our marriage, and we had been together 19 and a half years at that point. I really truly miss my guy, and I wish everyone that tells me their woes and their heartbreak could just have a little bit of the adoration my husband had for me. We didn't always get along, but we knew how to come back together. We certainly knew how to laugh. I remember. So, if you haven't figured out by now, I get distracted easily. And especially when I have a wonderful memory of me and my husband. Excuse me. I remember one day he and I decided we're going to go eat, just me and him. We go to Applebee's, right? And I don't know if anybody else experiences this, but have you noticed how much sugar is in all the food at Applebee's? I'm telling you, in the regular food as well as the desserts, right? I digress. Anyway, so this is the last time he and I went to Applebee's also. But we go to Applebee's this particular date, and we're sitting there, trying to figure out what we want on the menu, and we keep getting down to the dessert section of the menu. We're sitting there looking at all this stuff. We're like, man, all this stuff looks so good, but we never have any room to eat the dessert after we've eaten the food. It just pisses you off. It's like, if you can't have dessert along with dinner, what's the point? You're missing out all the, the goodies, the treat. I'm starting to think, no, I am convinced somebody that came up with dessert was just a way to bribe their kids to finish dinner. What do you think? Anyway, back to the story. So we're sitting there, and I said to my husband, I got a great idea. And he says, what? And I was like, why don't we order all of the desserts and eat the desserts first? He said, can we do that? I was like, yeah, of course we can. We're the grown-ups. we don't, I was like, we don't have to listen to any parents. There's nobody going to whip our butts. We're not going to get in trouble. We're the people that get other people in trouble. He's like, oh yeah. I was like, yeah. He's like, that's a good idea. I said, yeah, let's just do it. Let's eat what we want. And then whatever's left over, which will be the food, we'll have leftovers for tomorrow. When I tell you that was the best idea ever, my husband, he was like a kid on Christmas morning. We had 2 of everything on the dessert menu. Then I don't even remember the food we ordered. That's how much fun we had. We had so much fun eating all the desserts, and of course he's telling me what he likes about each one, that he, his favorite one out of them and everything, and how it tastes to him, the textures, because I'm a texture person. And so of course I'd taste and I'd be like, yeah, I don't agree, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, we had a great time that day. And those are the kind of things that I miss with him. I mean, we used to have so much fun. But at the same token, there were times where we had a rough start, like most relationships. Now, this isn't just for people that are married. If you're in a relationship with someone, and you may not be married, but you've been in this relationship with someone for a while, you're acting as if you are a married couple. You're having sex together. You're sleeping in the same bed. Either one of you are doing the laundry, or you're both doing the laundry together. You're both cleaning the house together. You're co-mingling your money and your credit and the toilet paper preferences and all that bull crap. Yeah. At the end of the day, you're acting as if you are a married couple. Let's say you're married. Now, you might not have to foot the bill for a divorce if you want to walk away. But, it's so funny. I tell people all the time that my life could literally be told in a playlist. From the beginning, the first song I ever heard, through the most recent, and how and when various songs throughout time come back and are reintroduced at a different time of my life. I could have a playlist And I think all of you would enjoy it. I know I do, because I be listening to it in my head all the time. And then, of course, I love YouTube. Anyways, so back to my story. I remember when we first got married, and it was rough. It was. I'm not going to lie. That first year, and I was pregnant with JL. So, had to get that sealed deal baby. Anyway, I'm pregnant with her. And of course, Andrew's excited, this is his first daughter. And he's got a baby coming, and he's 43, and I'm 39, and he's reading all these books about pregnancy and all this stuff. And his son at the time, I believe Drew was 13 at the time, and so it was kind of like a brand new thing with Andrew. He was so excited, and he's reading all these books. And so when we got married, which was, we got married in 2003, and we had so we got married August 1st of 2003. We had JL April 1st of 2004. So during that time period, I think a week after Andrew and I got married, on the 9th of August of 2003, we went fishing. And we went halibut fishing. I was the first person to catch the first 2 fish on the boat. And at that point, I was like, yep, I'm done. I didn't want to overfish. I just wanted to go to sleep. Excuse me. The captain kept trying to tell me, no, we're all going to keep fishing and we're going to split it up. And I told him, I do not care. I got what my license said for me to get, and I'm good with that. So I went to sleep. Anyway, we had a whole freezer chest full of fish. I love halibut. My favorite, though, is salmon. So, anyway, I'm pregnant. When I tell you, this guy, he was trying to take care of me. I recognize that. He was killing me. First off, I cannot stand the smell of burning grease. Can't stand it. I especially can't stand it if I'm pregnant. And I especially can't stand it if I'm pregnant and it's burning grease and it's burning fish grease. And the fire's too high. Can't stand it. That right there was enough for me to ask you to leave. How petty, right? I mean, I could have been a lot nicer, but I wasn't. Anyway, he was trying to make sure I was healthy and the baby was healthy. So in his mind, and you got to understand, my husband loved to cook. I cook very well. I don't love to cook. I only love to cook when someone appreciates my cooking. I am also accustomed to cooking large amounts of food at one time. So if I cook large amounts of food, I expect for a large party of people to eat this food and take this food home with them. So my husband, on the other hand, he likes to prepare meals every day. I wasn't going to do it. I can't do it. It's just not my jam. I'll do the holidays every day. I'll do it when I feel like it. But on regular, that's not me. I know how to manage a house. I know how to hire a cook. I know how to hire a housekeeper. But the rest of that stuff, it's just not me. But I digress. Anyway, so what Andrew wanted to do was, he was trying to keep me healthy. So he was fixing all this fish, right? And I understood that that was his way of showing me that he loved me by trying to give me healthy food for a healthy outcome for our baby. I'm sure he worried about the fact that he was 43 and I was 39, and adverse effects can happen to pregnancies in older couples. And fortunately, she came out very healthy, head full of hair. Broke my tailbone 3.5 months into the pregnancy. Let's see. And I didn't fall. I just woke up in excruciating pain and my tailbone had broken. Let's see. My hair came out of my head. For the longest, I couldn't figure out why I was looking kind of crazy, right? Well, guess why? This much of my hairline had come out. And so the fluorescent lighting in my bathroom, I kept seeing my hair, and it's like, something's not looking right? I just couldn't figure out what it was. Well, you know what it was? The pink of my scalp was looking funny in the light. I didn't realize that the whole front 1.5 of maybe 2 inches of my hairline had come completely out of my head. And when I went to comb my hair, because we were going somewhere, and I pulled my hair down, because back then I put my hair in a ponytail, right? I go to pull my hair out, and it's not coming out to my face. You know how, like, here, this comes out right like this, and this does this thing, Well, excuse me, it wasn't doing that. And I couldn't figure out. I was like, oh my God, my hair came out of my head. Anyway, so I don't even know how I got on that part about my hair coming out of my head. It was crazy. But anyways, Andrew, he wasn't, when he was cooking back then, he was a fryer. He would fry stuff all the time. I'm not a fryer. I can't fry nothing. If I fry something, it's going to be burnt on the outside and not cooked on the inside. So I don't even fool around with that stuff. That's why I get a little fryer that has a timer and I can follow directions. Anyway, so here my husband is frying up all this fish every day. And I kept telling him, Andrew, I don't want no more fish. Andrew, please. I don't want any fish. If you're going to cook me fish, bake it. Just bake it. I love baked fish. But he felt that he was going to do it the way he wanted to do it. And the way he was going to show me he loved me was to cook dinner for everyone, especially me. And I tried to be as gracious and grateful as possible. I did. But you can only eat so much fried food. And then have to smell the burning grease on top of that. It was horrible. And then we had 2 13-year-old boys in there, both of them funky and stinky feet. It was like a hot mess, right? Anyway. So then we have JL, and while I'm in the hospital, I'm in my room. I had the cesarean section, right? Excuse me. And my husband was there all the time. So if you're a guy and watching this, what you don't understand is when women have their babies, we are anticipating that we are going to have a rest period while we're in the hospital before we go home. That didn't happen. My husband and I did not argue much before we got married. We were dating for a whole year, and actually the first anniversary of our meeting, which was August 1st of 2002, was the first time we had, well, actually shortly after that, a few days after that day, is when we had our first argument. And that's because he had asked me to marry him before August 1st, 2002. We had went to the church. He had spoke to my pastor. My pastor had given him the approval. We had our meeting. We scheduled to get married the following summer. Well. Let me tell you. This guy gets spooked. So the following Friday is my choir rehearsal. I go to choir rehearsal, and the church secretary comes and she says, I'm so sorry to hear about what happened to you and your beau. I thought everything was going to work out, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, what are you talking about? And she's like, Andrew, you and Andrew Mosby, that was your beau, right? I was like, yes. She's like, I'm sorry to hear you guys aren't getting married. I was like, who told you that? We're getting married. We just met with the pastor the other day. What are you talking about? She's like, no. He came to the church and I took it off the calendar. I was like, what are you talking about? Because up until then, I had never used profanity around him. I had never raised my voice. I had never been angry around him. Because whenever we were together, it was always peaceful. It was always a peaceful environment. I never got, butterflies in my stomach or anything like that around him. I was just always at peace with him. I never had to raise my voice. I never had to argue. I never had to use profanity. I got to be at peace. And I could trust him. Well, guess what I found out? I found out that he was not this perfect person. He also found out I was not a perfect person. Because sure as the church secretary had told me, he had actually came up there and canceled the wedding. We had not even had an argument. I was embarrassed because this was my church. I was there frequently, like every day. I had a relationship with everybody there. I had been a member there for over 20 years. So how dare you embarrass me? But anyway, I'm devastated. I couldn't believe this guy would do this, right? So, of course, my stomach is getting hot. And I'm all up in my head. And then I leave choir rehearsal. After choir rehearsal's over, of course, I go over to his place. I see his cars in his parking lot. I'm knocking on the door. You hear somebody moving around in there, and he's not answering the door. I probably knocked for about 20 minutes, maybe 10 minutes. I embellish a little bit from time to time. Anyway, he didn't answer. So this goes on for like 3 or 4 days. I think the 5th day, I parked in the parking lot, waited till he pulled up, watched him get out of his car, go inside his apartment, waited 5 minutes, and I went and knocked on the door. So I was like, Andrew, I saw you pull up. I know you're here. Just give me my stuff out the bottom drawer. Because I had the baby's diapers and stuff in there. The baby at the time was Sydney. So he brings me this bag of stuff and telling me to get away from his door because he's going to call the police, and I'm harassing him. I'm like, look, I'm just trying to figure out what happened. I don't understand. I just need to have an understanding what happened. And he's like, you're making me do something I'm not ready to do. And I'm like, what? You're crazy. So, long story short, I left. Well, a few months later, no. Was it a few months? No. It was 3 days later. He comes by and he wants to have a conversation. Well, he wants to continue saying what he was saying, which was accusing me of making him do something he wasn't ready to do. And I said, can you explain to me, what is it exactly that I did that you wasn't ready to do? You made me get scheduled to get married, and I wasn't ready to do this. I was like, wasn't that you that asked me to marry you? Well, yeah. I didn't ask you? No? Okay. And, I told you what? You told me to go talk to your pastor. I said, and did you? Yes. And so he told you that it was okay for you to marry me. Well, yes. He gave me his approval. I said, okay. I said, so then you came and told me what he said, and then I gave you my answer that I would marry you, right? Yes. Okay. Out of all those steps that we took, where was it that I stepped in and forced you to do something you didn't want to do? I'm not ready for this. Well, that's all you had to say. I'm good with that. But that also means that we're done. So I got out the car and he started saying some ugly stuff, and I told him, don't bring your ass around here no damn more. And I put a big old dent, this big. Oh, I want to say it was about 18 inches across in his driver's side door as he drove off and kicked up all that pea gravel and stuff in the parking lot. It was hilarious. Anyways, I was fired up. Needless to say, after 2.5 months of that foolishness, we came back together. And the following year, the Monday before the 1st of August of 2003, it's 11:35 at night, we're looking at TV, excuse me, at my place. And he says, so you ready? I said, ready for what? You ready to do this? I'm like, do what? And he says, get married. Get married? Yeah, you ready to get married? When? Friday. Friday? What Friday? Oh, this coming Friday. I said, why this coming Friday? Well, Friday's the 1st, isn't it? I said, yes. He goes, that's our anniversary, right? I said, whoa, Nelly. You mean the anniversary that wasn't an anniversary last year? That anniversary that you decided to pick a fight over because you said that I forced you to do something you wasn't ready to do? That anniversary? He says, okay, you know, I was just afraid of commitment. I've gotten over that. You're my person. I'm your person. We're going to be together and we're going to get married. And I want to do it on Friday. So I said, okay, well, I tell you what. You go see my pastor in the morning, and if he gives you the okay, you call your people. I'm going to call my people. Whoever shows up on Friday, they show up. And the rest of them, they can show up at the reception later. I said, I get off of work at 4:45. I can be at the church by 5 o'clock. You get off of work at 4:30. You should be able to get to the church in time. We can get married at 5:15. But I'm going to tell you right now, if we're not married by 5:30, I'm not getting married, and we're done. He says, what do you mean? I said, yeah, I'm done. 2 years, that's all you get from me. You're not wasting my entire life waiting on someone to give me a promise ring, to promise to ask me to marry him. That's some bullshit. Anyway, so sure enough, we were all there, and we had called all of our people. Well, guess what? So many people showed up. It was the funniest thing. The church was packed. We never mailed out an invitation or anything. I wore a dress that I had worn in my friend's wedding as her maid of honor the year before. Andrew had an olive suit that he had in his closet. We ended up looking very nice. My beautician got my hair together, and my niece-in-law, Andrew's niece, she got 4 dozen long stem roses from Cars when they used to be 2 dozen for $9.99. So we got 4 of those batches. She made my bouquet. She made a mini bouquet for Sydney. She made corsage for my mom and my maid of honor. And then she did the boutonnées for all the boys, for our sons, and as well as for Andrew. And I think we spent less than $50 getting married at the church. But you know who the person that was nervous was? It was me. Because I was sitting there, I was smiling, right? And I kept hearing this noise, right? And I couldn't figure out what it was. So I kept hearing, and the noise sounded like this. And I'm sitting there in my head like, what is that noise? In the meantime, I'm also having this other conversation in my head. I'm like, why are we getting married? We really don't need to get married. I mean, why are we getting married? All this time, we haven't been married. We don't need to be married. We can just keep things the way it is. And then my other side was like, why isn't somebody else stopping this? How come nobody's objecting to us getting married? I mean, gosh, this guy's 43. I'm 39. Why are we even doing this? We don't got to do this. Then the other side of me was like, just calm down. You're okay. You're okay. This is going to be okay. It's going to work out. Of course, everybody else in my head is like, alarm bells, danger, danger, Will Robinson, right? And so my pastor, during the entire ceremony, he's like, he would stop, right? And he was laughing at me. He's like, baby, you okay? And I'd be like, mm-hmm. He says, are you sure? I'd be like, mm-hmm. I wasn't okay. I was scared to death. And I kept looking at Andrew, and Andrew had a smile like an angel. He was so excited, and I was fucking terrified. Oh my God. Talk about, I was still preoccupied with the sound, right? And like I said, the pastor kept stopping and asking me if I was okay. Now, I don't know how many of you have seen Andrew's Facebook page with our wedding pictures, right? But oh my God, if you look at my face, I was greasy and I had been sweating, and I was so nervous that I didn't realize that I was greasy and oily and sweating, right? That's why he kept asking me. And I apparently had this crazy look on my face. Guess what happened after the ceremony? Of course we kissed, right? But everybody kept coming up, saying to, giving their congratulations. But then they'd come to me and say, girl, I can't believe you did it. I didn't expect you to go through with it. I thought for sure you was going to bolt out the door. Everybody said it. Apparently, everybody came to see the wedding because they did not think I was going to go through with it. They thought I was going to jet. And I'm sitting there thinking to myself, am I the runaway bride? But then I had to think about it. Guess what? My pastor, he wasn't up there at the podium facing the congregation. No. Mm-mm. No, what he did was he came down on the main floor and he put his back to the congregation and blocked the aisle going out the church. Had me and Andrew facing him and the congregation. Apparently, he must have thought I was a runaway bride too, because he was blocking the exit. And that sound, yeah, that sound, that was my pantyhose. Yeah, my knees was knocking. So, yeah, the only person that was nervous, it was me. But if I had to do it all over again, would I do it? I absolutely would. I'd probably be nervous all over again. I'd probably have my knees knocking all over again. I probably was naturally, instinctively the runaway bride. Absolutely. That's just who I am. I am flawed. I'm a human. Okay? And excuse me. Yeah, I was scared. I was going into the unknown. It was something that I could not plan. I had no preconceived idea of if it would work, and if it didn't work, what then? Because I knew that I don't believe in divorce. Andrew didn't believe in divorce. You know, his parents had not got divorced. Now my mom and dad had got divorced. I remember every step up to the divorce and afterwards. But you know what? My dad always loved my mama. Always loved her. Worshiped the ground she walked on. If she said that he could come back, he would have. So I knew how a husband was supposed to love his wife. I knew from my bio dad how he loved his family and loved all of us, and how he raised us all, and how he nurtured us, and he invested in who we are to this day. So I had a healthy upbringing as far as what a wife is, well, not a wife, but what a husband should be like, how a father should be. You know, I was fortunate enough to have 3 dads, so I was always a daddy's girl. Always. I had uncles that also treated me like a princess. So I got away with murder. And they let me run amok. And I got a guy that let me run amok too. His name was Andrew. And come to find out, apparently, him and his personality, the way he was with me, apparently that's how all the men in our family were. I didn't know that was my type until Andrew had passed, and my cousin Damien came in here and rescued us, and I'm sitting here watching him wondering, well, how do you know where that goes? Well, how do you know where that goes? And, what are you doing? He's like, all the men in the family do this. I was like, what are you talking about? He's like, yeah, we all do this. I was like, wait, are you telling me I got a type? Oh my God, all the men are like this? And I had to think about it. He was absolutely right? So I told you all this pretense for a reason. So let's see. Hold on. Let me get my little tablet up and running. And okay. So the way this whole conversation started was because I got a call from someone who was distressed about their relationship. And I didn't get to go all into it, but I just wanted to read Ephesians 5:25 through 33. Can't put my readers on because I can't see a thing. Okay, I can see a thing, but not too small, too late at night. Smart Myrtle. Anyways, this is from the New King James Version. Excuse me. And we start with, husbands, love your wives, just as Christ also loved the church and gave himself for her, that he might sanctify and cleanse her with the washing of water by the word, that he might present her to himself as he might present her to himself a glorious church, not having spot or wrinkle or any such thing, but that she should be holy and without blemish. So husbands ought to love their own wives as their own bodies. He who loves his wife loves himself. For no one ever hated his own flesh, but nourishes it and cherishes it, just as the Lord does the church. For we are members of his body, of his flesh, and of his bones. For this reason, a man shall leave his father and mother and be joined to his wife, and the two shall become one flesh. This is a great mystery, but I speak concerning Christ and the church. Nevertheless, let each one of you, in particular, so love his own wife as himself, and let the wife see that she respects her husband. So it was very important for me. Sorry, my eyes are burning. It must be getting late. To read that scripture. And this is why. You know, when we meet somebody, we like them a lot. We're attracted to them. And that attraction, you know, it can have some lust to it. You know, we all want to have a connection, and some want to have more connections than others. Now, don't get me wrong. Yes, I was actually absolutely making a connection with Andrew before our wedding ceremony. We were. I had justified it, and I was sinful. I had no business doing it. But, be that as it may, it happened, and I'm going to tell you this. This is for those young people out there. If you can, keep your legs closed. Keep your ankles locked. Keep your booty cheeks clapped. Keep your knees together. Keep it to yourself. It's the most valuable asset you have. When you start spreading it everywhere, everybody that's ever visited can talk about the sights. Keep it a mystery. I hate that my mystery didn't belong to just him, but others had visited my attraction. It would have been nice to present a grand opening to my attraction to just him. And if he was the only audience, I would have been satisfied, and so would he. When you have more than one audience member show up at your main attraction, what happens is, you know, people start looking at the register as to who was here, how tall were they, what kind of job did they have, you know, what kind of relationship did you have with them, you know, how long did they attend, you know, and what was the count, you know, how large was your audience? None of which is important. But men, for some reason, they just get that stupidness in their head and they just run with it. At least to me, it's not important. I didn't care. But my husband did. So, like I said, we get married. Excuse me. And I liked him a lot. I was very attracted to him. And he to me. Come to find out, what I'm attracted to is kindness, empathy, someone that can banter with me, someone that will beat the living crap out of me bowling and don't think nothing about it. You know what I mean? Being competitive. Now, I'm not saying I'm good with bowling. That's not what the thing is. The thing is, I need to see who you are. I find that when I bowl with you, I see who you truly are. That's what helps me to determine whether I'm going to waste any more time with you. And I'm going to tell you, when Andrew and I dated, the first 2 dates, I was done. I was not going to date that guy again. But I gave him a third date. And we went bowling. And he beat the cowboy snot out of me. But when he did it, oh my God, it was fantastic. Every time he made a strike, he was like, wow! He was spinning around, and I'm like, wow! Well, welcome to the party. Where have you been? Who are you? Now, you I can work with. Because I'm more of an introvert than an extrovert, but I have extrovert tendencies. And Andrew was more of an introvert with extrovert tendencies also. But when he was an extrovert, he was an extrovert. Oh my God. He was fantastic. And had I not seen that side of his personality, we would have never gotten married. But now, like I said, I was attracted to him. He was attracted to me. We get married. We made this beautiful baby. But that first year, well, before we went to the hospital to have our daughter, I forgot what it was, but we got into a fight. And I was very upset. And I was like, you need to fix this shit. And you fix it before I get home. And he didn't. So here I am in the hospital. I didn't have this baby. He leaves me in the delivery room by myself. He goes with the baby. Left me there. My mother always was with me in every one of my births with my children. My mother never left me in the room by myself. And I had a cesarean section with JL. They hadn't even started sewing me up, and he left me there. I could have bled out. I couldn't believe it. I was like, where are you going? He was like, I'm going with the baby. And before I could say anything else, he was gone. He left me there. So I felt abandoned. And I'm sure that had everything to do with the fact that I was probably, having postpartum blues or something like that, but I didn't realize it. All I knew was that this dude just left me for a kid he didn't know. And I could die on here and nobody would ever know what happened because I let him come in here instead of my mama. But I digress. Anyway, so we get to my room. Well, I had the little pump for my, for my, not Demerol, morphine. I had the morphine drops and stuff, so every time I had pain, I'd, give myself some morphine and stuff, and, they'd bring food in, and if I wasn't ready to eat, I wouldn't eat, right? And, but when I was ready to eat, I'd have, I'd ask for my food. Well, how about this guy, even though he was getting his plates of food too, not only ate his food, he was eating up all my food. And he had them at a bed to my room. And he was sleeping in the other bed on the other side of the curtain. And he was snoring. He was snoring so loud, I couldn't get any rest. I think after the second day, I lost it. I came completely unglued. And when I tell you that fight we had in that room, you would have I'd have swore that security should have came in to find out what was going on, right? No. Nobody ever came in to find out what was going on, why we were screaming to the top of our lungs, why we were fighting or anything. And I told him, I was like, look, get your ass out of here. I don't even want to see you when I get home. If you don't fix that shit, you need to get the fuck to stepping, because I can't deal with this, right? So after he goes out, he tries to slam the door. You know how hospital room doors are? You can't slam them. So I was like, you dummy, you can't slam the door! He takes off. So anyway, what did he do? Oh, so now the nurses come in. Are you okay? We heard what was going on. Is there somebody you can call or that we can call for you? And of course, I'm crying now, right? I'm like, I felt all beat up. I felt attacked. The whole thing. I'm going through this whole thing, snot bubbles and everything. And they're like, is there someone you can call? I was like, call my pastor. So they call my pastor and get him on the phone. And I told him what happened. He's like, okay, baby, okay. I just need you to relax. You take care of you and the baby. I'll take care of Andrew. Everything's going to be okay. Pastor's going to take care of it. I was like, okay. And I get off the phone, right? And so, a few days later, it's time for me to go home. Me and the baby. Andrew comes, takes me home. I'm looking through the house. You know, nothing seems to have changed. Something he was supposed to do, and it had not changed. Oh yeah, that's it. That fight we got in a fight about, I asked him, why are you here? Why aren't you at work? And that joker told me he was on maternity leave. I said, really? For what? Did you get a baby cut out of you? Did you push out a baby? I don't understand. Why are you here? Well, I can have maternity leave because you had a baby. You're my wife. So, you mean to tell me you took off of work, your paid job, that you don't get paid for when you're off work, to sit here in the hospital room and eat my food and snore all day where I can't get no sleep? That's what you did? No, you need to take your ass to work, joker. And that's how the fight started. So I get home and something was going on with the house. I knew I was not happy. I didn't know that Andrew had a surprise set up for me. And so, long story short, my sister and my stepmom and my auntie came up from Seattle to surprise me and my niece, who was also pregnant at the same time. And I had no idea. Anyway, it was a beautiful surprise. But yeah, I was taken aback, and I had to check myself for my impatience. But that first year of marriage, when I tell you, every couple of days I told that man I didn't want to be married to him no more, and I wanted a divorce, and I just didn't want you. I would say, I don't want you. I don't want you anymore. You know, and can you imagine how I heard him saying that? When I would tell him I'm taking back my prayers for a husband. Can you imagine how painful that could have been for him? But he held on to me. And he was patient. And he was kind. He was empathetic. He was tough. But when Andrew made up his mind, Andrew made up his mind. And Andrew had made up his mind he was going to be my husband, and he was going to love me. And that passage I read to you just a few minutes ago, excuse me, where it said, husbands, love your wife as Christ loves the church. That's what my husband did for me. Now, I'm sure you remember the part at the bottom, verse 33, where it says, wives, respect your husbands. So, it's pretty evident the first couple of years of our marriage, it was based off of a lot of emotions and attraction, which is not really love. Love is an action. Love is a choice. I did not like a lot of the behaviors my husband had the first part of our marriage. I had to come to terms so late in getting married that I had to consider that I needed to bounce things off of my partner, my husband, instead of making decisions on my own like I had been doing for 40 years beforehand. That also meant talking to him about raising children together and, what is his disciplinary method as opposed to my disciplinary method, and how is it going to work? I was pretty strict back in the day, and he taught me how to be softer, not as strict. So a little bit more firm rather than extremely strict. He loved, and he taught me how to love. When we met, he was very reserved, and he was very protective of his heart. And then one day, out of the blue, he just up and tells me he loves me because he stood me up for this date, right? Excuse me. He up and tells me he loves me. I'm like, oh, okay. And he says, well, did you hear me? I said, yeah. He says, yeah, he's like, oh, I love you. I said, okay, thank you. He says, what do you mean, okay, thank you? And I was like, okay, thank you. And he says, aren't you going to say it back? And I was like, say what back? And he goes, that you love me. I told you I love you. I was like, you don't want me to lie to you, right? He's like, what do you mean, lie to me? I was like, look, I like you. I like you a lot. I like you a lot. But I don't think I love you. I'm not there yet. And he goes, so you're not going to tell me? I said, what are you asking me to do? Are you asking me to lie to you? I'm not going to lie to you. I'm not a liar. I'm not going to do that. The best I can give you is thank you for loving me. I appreciate it. And I like you a lot. And he was a little miffed by that, right? And when I married him, I thought I loved him. I know I cared for him a lot. I know that he belonged to me because when I smelled his head, you know the crown of your head, how you can smell your kid's head and they smell like you? Well, he had the smell like he belonged to me. And so I knew he was mine. I didn't love him, and I didn't understand why I didn't love him like I thought I was supposed to. But I cared deeply for him. And I knew I wanted to be with him. I knew he belonged to me. Anyway, so 2 years after we got married, I think it was really like 2.5 years, one day, the Holy Spirit just told me, watch Andrew. And so I did. So it was like every morning about, I want to say about 5 o'clock, 5:15, maybe 4:45. My husband would get up, no alarm, used to piss me off. I don't know how he did this, but he would just wake up, right? Didn't even toss and turn. He would just wake up. And he'd turn over, he'd turn over, say good morning, get up, and go to the bathroom. And then make all these god-awful noises. I'm talking about... I mean, it was horrible, right? And I'd be laying there like, oh my God, can you be any louder? He'd go in there, use the bathroom, blow his nose, wash his hands, and go down the hallway. Tell all the kids to get up, get ready for school. He'd go in my mother's room, and he'd wake her up, kisses, talk to her, pray with her. And he'd clean her up. He'd go to the kitchen, put on a pot of coffee, make breakfast, have breakfast on the table for all the kids, take my mama's breakfast in there to her. Excuse me. And he'd feed my mother. So he'd feed my mother, and he'd get the kids out on the bus, and he'd clean my mom up, wash all the dishes, fix a cup of coffee for me, fix a plate of food, and he'd set my plate of food next to the bed and my cup of coffee. And he'd go in the, actually, no, I take that back. He'd get the kids off, and they'd go on about their business, and then he'd come in the room, go in the bathroom, and take his shower, get ready for the day. Then he'd go to the kitchen, make my food, make my cup of coffee, bring it to the side of the bed, kiss me, tell me good morning, tell me it's time to get up, let me know that the kids are all off to school, that he's cleaned up mama and fed her, and that my plate of food was right there, and my cup of coffee. And he told me to get up and eat and get my day started. And he loved me. And for me to call him if I need him. And he'd leave. And just like the routine, I would get up, eat my breakfast, drink my coffee, shower, go in there, check my mom. So then, to work, he'd come home. Excuse me. He'd check on the kids, make sure they had all their, they were all eating their snacks and stuff and doing their homework and their chores. He'd go and check in on Mama. He'd come and check in on me. Tell me to go take a nap. And he would go make dinner. Get everybody fed. Feed Mama. Come to the room, get dressed, and go to his other full-time job in the evening at the youth correctional facility out here, where he would go to work from 7 till midnight. And he'd wake me up from my nap, give me a kiss, tell me everybody who's, that everybody had eaten, washed up the dishes, everybody had done their chores, they did all the stuff. He'd go to work. I'd finish out the day, get everybody in the bed, and I'd wait for my husband to come home. And he would come home. And we'd kiss, talk briefly, tell me, how his night went. And then got back into bed. And next morning, it started all over again. I watched him for a whole week. You know what I saw? I saw a man who loved me and adored me. He loved me and showed me how much he loved me by everything that he was doing. He showed me through a cup of coffee, through a plate of food, through a nap here and there. For he would just try to relieve me of as much as possible. And he'd work. And he was a protector and he was a provider. And I watched. And guess what happened? I learned to respect my husband. See, people always quote that verse telling you to just respect your husband, right? But they're not telling you that when you truly respect your husband, that is the magic key. That right there. See, a man and a woman, when they get married, excuse me, and regardless of how many kids you have beforehand or whatever, or after, when you get married, right, you're a man and you're a woman. You come together and you're supposed to become one flesh, right? Well, that doesn't happen if the wife doesn't respect her husband. Excuse me. See, the man will love, honor, adore, protect, and provide for you. It's their nature to do so. When they have the one that they want to give all that to, their nature dictates that's what they are going to do. Protect, provide, love, honor, adore. He's going to pray for you. Not just for you, but then he's going to pray over you because he needs to protect you. And your children, same thing. And he's going to provide for you because he doesn't want you to go outside of him and depend on someone else other than himself. So, excuse me. It's more natural for them to just automatically love us because they've made a conscious decision to do so. Us women, on the other hand, we have a little trick. See, we are not, so they start off as husbands. We don't start off as wives. We start off as the woman they married. And we can only become the wife when the husband teaches you how to love him. And that requires you to have respect for him. Excuse me. Like I said, 2.5 years into our marriage is when I respected my husband. And when I realized everything he did, how he loved me, how he loved my mother, he took everything in as his. He even adopted my daughter that I brought into the marriage. The boys, they were all set. They wasn't going to do nothing. But Sydney, when Andrew and I first started dating, was 2. And so when he saw her, he just fell in love with her. He's like, I can't even imagine being a father to a little girl and not being part of her life. And soon as we got married, we started the adoption process, the step-parent adoption process. And my husband adopted her. Like I said, just watching him for that week, I gained so much respect for that man that the key that was missing for me to love him like he deserved, I had no idea the key was respect. That's why the Bible says, women, respect your husbands. Because unless we respect them, we cannot love them the way they need to be loved. We cannot. We are not designed to do so. That's why it doesn't say for women to love your husbands. It says, women, respect your husbands. It's a different kind of love. Women, the wives, we are raised to be your wife. We are taught to be your wife from that same very husband. How he loves us is what unlocks our respect for him. And when that respect is unlocked, we learn through his actions and how he loves us. We learn from that how to love him. So, today's lesson, although long, was to say, love is a choice. Love is an action. If your partner who you love is not reciprocating the same love. And you've decided to check out. I challenge you. Pray about it. Pray about it. Think about what I've said here about my experiences. Now, I'm not saying what I experienced was perfect and right. I can only tell you what I experienced. And it was a beautiful journey. It really, truly was. I can't wait to do it again. I wish the same for everybody. Love her. Provide for her. Protect her. Give her a safe space, a safe environment to be open and vulnerable to you. Hold her hand. Get away from the kids. You know how them young people say, fuck them kids. Yeah. You gotta have that relationship with just you and her. She can only love you as much as you teach her how you love her. You gotta give her everything she needs to respect you. Because she's not going to open up until she feels safe to do so. Now, maybe because you guys have not gotten married yet, maybe that's a reason why you're feeling like she's disrespecting you. Or you haven't said that she's disrespecting you. You feel that you are not respected. That is a totally different thing. Maybe because you haven't committed to marrying her and she hasn't walked down that aisle with you yet. Maybe that is the reason why it seems that she doesn't have the respect for you yet. That right there can kill attraction, love, or not love, I would say lust, caring for someone deeply. That can kill it. Absolutely. It could choke the life out of the spark of a flame. It just can snuff it away. She has to feel loved. She has to feel protected. She has to feel like you're going to provide for her. She has to feel that she can relax in your arms and she won't have to worry about a thing. When she feels that way, excuse me, that's when she will unlock and respect you. And when she respects you, you will have the love that you desire. I promise you. Pray about it. Write it down if you need to. Write the plan. It's just a plan. Write it down. You set out what your goals are and then work it backwards. Every step. If you gotta keep rewinding this video, do it. If you need to call me and ask me, call me. everything that you want in life is at your fingertips. But you first gotta get your right partner, the person that loves you, respects you, adores you. It's gonna be your helpmeet. And I'm telling you, it's a wonderful thing. Don't lose it because you got tired. Don't lose it because you got distracted. You can make it work. And like I said, take it from somebody that was been there. I told that man I didn't want him for 2 years in a row, every other day. But at 2.5 years, I was wise enough and open enough to hear the Holy Spirit tell me, watch Andrew. I wish the same for you. I pray many blessings for your future. I travel for weddings. I want to be there at that wedding. If you want me to sing for it, I will. I don't care. Oh, and I'm in love with this new song. Well, it's not a new song. It is a repeat new to me song. Hold on. Let me play it for you real quick. It's an Al Green song, and it ain't the one that everybody be sitting there talking about. Nope. Nope, it's a better one. Hold on. Where is it? Is this it? Let's see. No, what is this? No, that's not right. Let's go to here. Ah, there it goes. It's called Let's Get Married by Al Green. I think it came out in 72 or 73 or something like that. But yeah, I mean, it starts out kind of quirky, but I have Marcellus. He's going to update the beginning and update it to a nicer sound, but or more modern sound. That's it. Wasting my time for you. Take you in my arms and love you every night. Just make everything alright. I wanna shoot you, baby. Let me shoot you, baby. I can shoot you, baby. I can your tears away. Wipe all your tears away. Wipe all your tears away. Yeah, you can know me. You don't believe me. Anyway, I'm going to remake that song, I think. We'll see.